Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts again, but this time after market close. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so as I talked with y'all about in the previous video on the pi cycle top indicator, I wanted to point this out. So you see how the if you just take a look at the price along the yellow line and the green lines are the EMAs, you can see that it has ridden the yellow line all the way up to the green line. So the thing I wanted to point out here is basically the bottom as of right now on these EMAs. The bottom is 66,000 and the top is 90,000, but 90,000 is not actually supposed to be the top because what's supposed to happen is once it tests this yellow EMA, at some point it breaks out above the green one, like you see here, goes to new all-time highs, like you can see right here in May of 2017, and like you can also see all the way back here in January of 2013 and again in October of 2013. So we're pretty much looking for the price to kind of play around in between the EMAs, 66 to 90,000 or so. But again, you guys can see that there have been a few points in history during a bull market where it's actually either come slightly below or quite a bit below. Like in this case, for example, during the pandemic, and even right here, it did come down below the yellow EMA a little bit. So just keep in mind that that's a possibility, okay? I mean, unless this is a left translated cycle, I don't think this thing is likely to dump below the yellow EMA on a sustained trend, I should say. But like I said, we haven't really seen a major altcoin season yet because the Bitcoin dominance has not yet had a major sell-off. I want to point this out one more time. So what we're looking for is something like this big, huge red waterfall. And we just haven't seen something like that yet on the Bitcoin dominance. And generally speaking, the Bitcoin dominance is a measure of Bitcoin's strength or weakness. When the dominance is going up, altcoins typically bleed against Bitcoin. When the dominance is going down, usually Bitcoin bleeds to altcoins because people move their money out of Bitcoin into Ethereum and the alts. So again, we haven't seen that yet. So this is indicative of, in my opinion, us being still early in the cycle and haven't seen a real true alt season. So let's get into the grayscale trusts. So as you guys can see, not really much changed on the day here. I mean, we had this little tiny bounce right off of the support line. As you guys can see, the support line has been ridden as support since basically October of 2023 all the way till now. So pretty much 8 months later, we're still bouncing off of it. Two scenarios here. Either we get a breakdown below the trend line, it comes down and tests anywhere, in my opinion, I would say anywhere from probably 15 to about $9.50, maybe $10. Or it bounces off the trend line and we get a breakout, comes back and retests this resistance. So if I go down to the daily here, you guys can see that this kind of confirms a little bit more of the bear strength. So you can see we had a golden cross back here, but then the bears took back over below the break-even level on the daily and said, nope, we're going to sell it off again. And that's exactly what they did. And we're pretty much on oversold on LTCN, so that could be an early indication of a reversal that's coming pretty soon in the future, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. The RSI on the weekly time frame is not overbought anymore, but it's certainly not oversold, so that's something to keep in mind. So I would say still the immediate bounce point could probably be right around that $16, $17 range. Anything below that, you'd be looking at roughly about $13.50 to $15. Swing high is going to be all the way up here at 54. And again, in my opinion, LTCN is probably going to go way higher than 54. I mean, the next stops above that is 75, 100, 135, and then somewhere between 300 to 400, if I'm not mistaken. So we've looked at these charts ad nauseum over time. So those are going to be your targets. The all-time high is, of course, $510. So from the current price, the nearmost target, you're going to be looking at 198%. If it does somehow get below this trend line and comes down and test support at about $13.50, you would then be looking at roughly about 312%. So BCHG, this thing has actually bled off a lot more than LTCN, which in my opinion is not really surprising. But I say that because Bitcoin Cash, the underlying asset, has actually run up far more than LTCN, or not LTCN, LTC. So Bitcoin Cash has done already done like a 5, 6, 7x. Litecoin barely even moved. I think it's maybe has done a 2.5x since the bottom. So it doesn't surprise me that BCHG is selling off more. But for support, we're pretty much looking between the 7 to 780. I would say it would be the immediate support. If it gets below that, maybe like $5 or so, which again is a rare opportunity because this thing hasn't been at $5 since basically February of this year. The swing high is going to be roughly about $24. So I'll just measure this once again from the current price to the swing high. So you're looking at roughly about 170%. If it gets down to support all the way up to the swing high, it'd be a lot more. It'd be about 258%. And let's just say it does get down to the trend line, which again, it's possible. Like I always say on this channel, if you think that if something's selling off in crypto and you think that it's done selling off, again, this is not financial advice, but in my opinion, it could be wise just to assume that it's probably going to sell off a little bit more than you actually expect it to. So just, that's the kind of mindset that I have when looking at these things. I'm like, oh, maybe it's going to stop at this yellow EMA, right? Maybe it stops at $10. But I have to, kind of kick myself and be like, well, this is crypto. It could actually dump a lot more. So maybe I'll just say the bottom is somewhere around $7 to $8. Just throw a little bit extra on there just in case it does. So anyways, from the trend line to the swing high, 370% move. HZEN, again, we're looking for a confirmation either above or below the support. Haven't had a indicative move one way or another yet. As you can see, it was resistance all the way back here. So once again, if it goes from the current price, which in my opinion is pretty much a steal at this point, all the way up to the swing high at 1050, that's going to be about 180% move. If it gets below that, maybe look for your entry target somewhere around $2.50 to $3. So $2.50 to $3 all the way up to $10.50, you're looking at about 316% gain. ETCG, this one has cracked this lower trend line, but only slightly. So again, if it's possible at this point that it could kind of get stuck in between these lines here. So that does happen sometimes. Usually I don't draw a lot of lines on the chart. I just look for like the most heavily traded zones because that's what a lot of traders that are day trading these things or swing trading are going to look at. But you can see this level right here where this line is at the bottom of the channel has held many, 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 many times over history. So I'm kind of expecting this thing, since it did have a confirmation below this trend line, to kind of bounce around in between the two. So potentially your entry could be anything from $11 maybe up to, we'll just say maybe up to maybe 11 to about 13 and a half is what you might be looking at. So let's just say it gets down to 11, okay? And then you want to ride the swing high all the way up to 1950, which is the most recent local high. That's going to be a 73% gain. ETH, this thing was looking like a bull flag for a little bit, but kind of failed, as you guys can see. So basically, Gensler, presumably Gensler and the SEC came out and said, of course it was in the news, but they came out and said like, oh yeah, we're going to approve the spot Bitcoin or spot Ether ETFs. But then like the listings kind of went into purgatory. So nobody's really heard anything about it. So we're still keeping a lookout on it. Like I said before, likely what I suspect is going to happen, this is my prediction, okay, I could be wrong, but I think we're probably going to hear something about a listing on DTCC or DTTC, whatever it's called, where initial listings get put on. We're probably going to hear something like that and hear news of the spot Ether ETFs actually being tradable and being traded. somewhere between the start to the middle of next month. Just a guess. I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm assuming, based on everything I've seen, I'm assuming that's likely what's going to happen. So, in terms of ETH, if this thing is one of the listings of the spot Ether ETFs, it probably will get a conversion from a trust to an ETF, would be my guess. ETCG is probably not likely to convert. That's the reason why we hold that one instead of ETH. But to each their own. So price likely is going to pull back into support. Again, support is between 25 to 29. You're looking at a swing high here of $36. So if it pulls back from there to, whoops. Okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Let's try this again. So if it pulls back to support and then swings all the way to the top, it's going to be about a 45% move. Now, there is also a cup and handle pattern here that was confirmed. So just because the cup and handle confirmed does not mean it can't bounce around all over the place for a little while before it does actually move up. It could do anything in between the breakout of the handle and getting to the price target. Anything's possible, okay? So $47 is going to be roughly about the target. Now, let's just assume best case scenario, you get it at 25 on the dip at the perfect entry at support, ride it all the way to the cup and handle target. You'd be looking at a massive 84% move. I'm pretty confident once the spot Ether ETFs get listed that ETH is likely going to move much more than 84%. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty confident that's going to happen. So okay, so here we go. All right, so Philgy, again, either looking for a breakdown or a breakout or a breakdown. If it breaks out, it's likely going to go bullish, probably hit this inverse head and shoulders pattern target, which again is 440. Support, what I would be looking for to get into this is somewhere between 37 to 40. We'll just do the measured moves from both. So let's assume from the breakout point all the way to the swing high, 244%, the inverse head and shoulders pattern target, 284%. And let's assume worst case scenario, it goes back to support and then goes all the way to the swing high. You'd be looking at about 890%. And then from the support all the way to the target for the inverse head and shoulders, roughly about 1,050%. So pretty huge move there. It could potentially be worth the wait. So GBET, this one's getting very close to support. I would probably be looking to pick this up at support. So just my opinion, of course, $7.70 to $10 is support. 32 is the target. That's the swing high. So if this thing does pull into support and then run back up to the swing high, it'd be about a 303% move. Again, based on the way that this looks, this failed bull flag, and it's pulling back down to support, I would say likely it is going to go into the support zone. GBAT, this thing is, it tried to come up, test it, got failed, and then pushed back down, or not GBAT, GLIV. So likely this thing is going to come down and test support at some point. So again, that's $12 to $15. The all-time high is at 80. So if I were just to measure this from here down to the support, it's a 50% drop. So keep that in mind. From support all the way up to the swing high up here is about 528%. So it's a pretty nice gain. Just think about it for a second. If you were to, or I should say, not you, if I were to drop, let's say a couple thousand in here or 5,000 even at $11 and it rides all the way up to $80, that could potentially be as much as a 7x. 7x 2,000 is 14,000, 7x 5,000 is 35,000. So no guarantees it actually has to go back up to the swing high, but like I said, I still think that we're very, very early in the cycle. And I think it, again, I don't think Bitcoin likely is going to run up to its new next all-time high until probably about the end of this year would be my guess. So G-Link is trying to also, very similar to these two, come back down to support. So again, that support 66 to 84. The swing high is going to be up here at 220. We need to get a break of this trend line too to confirm that the move is actually happening. In my opinion, I think it probably will come down to support before it gets a breakout. So again, that would be about a 236% gain. GSOL, this is I'll reiterate this one more time. This is a very bearish looking candle. Doesn't mean it has to sell off, but this is definitely a warning flag in my opinion. This is known as a shooting star. If it confirms, if it confirms as a red shooting star and closes below this yellow EMA, I would say at that situation, likely it is going to come back down and at the very least test this red EMA at $215. So again, just to get to the red EMA is quite a drop. So that's about 39%. To get all the way down to support, which is $166, is 52%. So the high up here is going to be about $580. I didn't measure it exactly, but it's pretty close to that. So there you have it, $581 and a 249% gain. GXLM, this thing has broken the trend line, as you guys can see. It did confirm last week, so likely it probably comes back down here to 24.5 in tests, and then maybe bounces from that point. The swing high is at $70, so pretty good move. That's roughly about, I think, like just shy of a 3x. So for this move, you'd be looking at 179%. And again, this is just the local high. This is not the all-time highs or the potential new all-time highs. As you guys can see, that move would not even be at the all-time high. The all-time high is at $94. So that's roughly about a 4x the current price, or 3x the current price, sorry. So mana, this is in the buy zone. You guys can do what you want with that, but it has tested multiple times as support and bounced. It used to be resistance. If I was going to go into this, I would probably add maybe I would say 50% of what I was going to put in. Like, let's say I was going to put in 5,000, I'd put in 2,500 right now, and I would just DCA as long as it was in the support or even if it came down, just to kind of hedge the risk and also get the best possible entry, but leave a little bit of dry powder on the side to buy more on the dip to reduce the cost basis and also simultaneously increase the upcoming potential gains here. So again, this support is going to be between $17.50 to roughly about $20, and the swing high is going to be at 71. I believe that's actually also the all-time high too. So 296% move. Let's take a look back. Yes, that is the all-time high. Zcash, this thing, if it closes below the red EMA, likely it is going to come back down and test this white line here. So this white line is roughly about $3.20 a share. The swing high is at $10.25 a share, so you're looking at about a $7 per share gain. So in terms of the measured move, it would be about 222%. So whether Bitcoin actually does hold at 66,000 or not, I mean, that remains to be seen. Usually we cover this in a separate video, but it is still within the flag. It's still above support. It's still above this trend line. So everything looks very bullish. And again, the Pi cycle top indicator, the yellow EMA, usually does hold for the most part as support during a bull market. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this one. As we have time and as it makes sense to do so, we'll update you on X. But just be on the lookout for that content in the future. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.